2024 meeting. Mrs. Petter, do you want to take roll?
For the tax budget hearing, we don't need to have a roll. It's just very informal hearing. And I know everyone here has probably come just for that experience. I'm used to having all kinds of kids and families here. It's shocking to have a tax budget hearing with so many people present. So this is a document we are required to submit to Hamilton County each year. And how I like to explain it best to my board always is, you know, you're used to approving a 5-year forecast where we're looking at fiscal years July 1, June 30. The county runs on the January 1, December 31. So the first part of the report is in essence taking our numbers out of a fiscal year and moving it into 6-month calendar years. And our forecasting tool does that, which is really nice. The tool has really helped fix things a lot. And all I have to do is go in and kind of tweak a few of the changes because it's doing a divide by 2. And in some cases, I know it's not a hard divide by 2. I go in and correct that. So the first page is going through general fund. So we're listing the revenues we're expecting from our property taxes. And then it's also talking about expenses. So here's what we're planning on getting, and it divides it out into calendar year by halves. And then next calendar year, 25 by halves. And it does that for general fund. And the only other 2 funds the tax budget cares about are our debt funds. So we got our bond fund, which is our 002 fund. Again, we're going to collect tax dollars there. And that's not in our forecast. So this is all based on our debt payment schedules. Revenue, plan, expenses out. For both the bond as a 2-pager, you can see how much, these are our buildings. This is the cost of our buildings. And then we have a PI fund, the 003 fund. Same thing again. We're breaking it up into halves of a calendar year and what we're planning on getting, forecasting getting, and our forecasted expenses. So our PI pays for some of our debt for our buildings also, and we also have payments for our copiers out of there, our copier lease. So those are the big expenses out of there. We do have the debt for the buildings. We had the bleacher project. We're halfway through paying for that, so that's also included in the PI fund. We had revenue that wasn't from taxes. It was from the sale of buildings long before Chris, and we used that to fund the bleacher project. So 5 more years on that, and we'll have that paid off. But basically, this is a document. The format is set by the county. We fill in the numbers. On the last page, that's probably the most interesting page, we'll actually say the grand total number, amount of debt. Don't look at it. You know how when you buy your first house and you see that mortgage payment and what you're actually going to spend? It's the same feeling for me here, but that breaks that out like that so you can see what we're going to owe until the debt is completely paid off. But that is our tax budget in a nutshell. Again, required that we have this to the county by the 20th. So board approves it, we get it down to the county by the 20th.
How does it compare to last year? Any surprises?
No, same, you know, the debt structure is moves throughout. Sometimes we're paying a little more in principal, sometimes the interest is a little higher. The first part of the first half is all interest on the calendar year. The second half is where we pay our principal plus interest, and it's just all based on the debt schedule.
Thanks.
So, but that's the tax budget. And I'll ask you to approve that during the regular meeting.
Any questions before we move on? And Mary slipped in.
I am.
And you have to wait until 6:30 to start your organizational meeting, because that's when we advertise it.
Okay, Jeannie, you're the hot paper.
Okay.
I'm gonna,
So,
I need to
Is that
see
it?
the people that are gonna swear each one of you in.
okay. Attorney Rucker is.
Oh, I see, yeah.
Oh, Mr. Begin the 2024 organizational meeting. 2024 organizational meeting called to order. This meeting is a meeting of the Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business and is not to be considered a public community meeting. There is a time for public participation during the regular meeting. Roll call.
Mr. Simons?
Present.
Mrs. Cleveland?
Here.
Mrs. Moore?
Here.
Mrs. Kessler?
Here.
Mrs. Wider?
Here. Thank you. Next is organizational business, and the first thing is swearing in of the newly elected board members.
Are we
So-
going in alphabetical order?
Sure can.
But I'm last.
I'm first, okay.
This is the best part. Take pictures.
I know.
Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you. Oh, good to, Curtis. Good evening, everyone. My name is Fanon Rucker. I'm honored to be here, and I'm certainly honored to swear in my friend and longtime supporter, Dean Ruffin-Moore. We've known each other for about 20, 25 years, and I'm not even from here.
I know.
Thank you so
I'm
much.
not that old.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you.
So raise your right hand. Say I, state your name in full.
I, Viennese Regina Ruffin-Moore,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America
that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America
and the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
and the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
and that I will faithfully
and I will faithfully
and impartially
and impartially
discharge my duties
discharge my duties
as a member
as a member
of the Board of Education
of the Board of Education
of the Princeton City School District.
of the outstanding Princeton City School District
Got that part. Of the outstanding Princeton City School District for the four-year term,
for the four-year term
2024 through 2027,
2024 through 2027
to the best of my ability
to the best of my ability
and in accordance with the laws
and in accordance with the laws
now in effect
now in effect
and hereafter to be enacted
and hereafter to be enacted
during my continuance in said office. I didn't write these. During my continuance in said office
during my continuance in said office
and until my successor is chosen and qualified.
and until my successor is chosen and qualified.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir. I just want to say a brief word about my husband and how supportive he has been, and other friends and relatives who are here. Thank you. Thank you very much for your support also of the entire school board. Thank you.
Decide your best side.
All right, hello, I'm Stacy DeGraffenreid Simons, Mr. Simons' wife, and so excited to be here today and get to swear him in. So this is exciting. Thank you. All right. Raise your right hand. I
I, John Myron Simons,
do solemnly swear
solemnly swear
that I will support
that I will support
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
and the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
and that I will faithfully
and I will faithfully
and impartially
and impartially
discharge my duties
discharge my duties
as a member of the
as a member of the
Board of Education
Board of Education,
of the Princeton City School District,
Princeton City School District,
Hamilton County, Ohio,
Hamilton County, Ohio,
for the four-year term,
the four-year term,
2024 through 2027,
2024 through 2027,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
and in accordance with the laws
and in accordance with the laws
now in effect
now in effect
and hereafter to be enacted
and hereafter to be enacted
during my continuance in this office, in said office, I'm sorry,
during my continuance in said office
and until my successor is chosen and qualified.
and until my successor is chosen and qualified.
Congratulations.
What's that?
Send it to relatives and Joy. She wants to know the picture.
Oh, send it to the relatives and Joy.
Their grandparents are cousins. Not those two. They were grandma and father were brothers.
Okay.
No, it ain't that kind of party, Susan. I wasn't saying his wife.
I was like, huh? I didn't know what to say to that.
She misunderstood what I was saying.
Ooh. Thank you.
Roosevelt married.
Yeah, I heard it, but I wasn't sure what you meant by that.
But that was back in the 1940s. It was allowed.
Board members.
My name is Dr. Walter Whiter. I have a PhD in engineering, a law license. I can practice law in the state of Ohio.
So I best behave. We were ready.
Repeat after me. I,
I,
what's your name?
Susan Ryder,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the state of Ohio.
and the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
And I will faithfully
and I will faithfully
and impartially discharge
and faithfully and impartially discharge
my duties as a member of the Board of Education
my duties as a member of the Board of Education
of the Princeton City School District,
of the Princeton City School District,
Hamilton County, Ohio,
Hamilton County, Ohio,
for the four-year term,
for the four-year term,
2024 through 2027,
2024 through 2027,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
in accordance with the law
and in accordance with the laws
now in effect and
Yeah.
hereafter to be enacted.
now in effect and hereafter to be enacted.
During my continuance in said office,
During my continuance in said office,
until my successor is chosen and qualified.
until my successor is chosen and qualified. Served on the school board a couple terms
Great. Great job.
Thank you. It's always nice to have an attorney.
Thank you.
It sure does.
Thank you.
Okay, we did that.
Now you do nomination election of president, right?
Okay, the next item on the agenda is nomination and election for the office of president. Any nominations?
I will.
I move that John Myron Simons be nominated and elected for the office of President of the Princeton Board of Education to serve from the 2024 Princeton Board of Education organization meeting through December 2024.
And I will second her motion. Anybody else? Mrs. Petter?
Mr. Simons?
Yes.
Mrs. Cleveland?
I thought he's going to say no or something.
Yes.
Mrs. Moore?
I abstain.
Mrs. Kessler?
Yes.
Mrs. Wyder?
Yes. So next is oath of office for President of the Board of Education, Princeton City School District. You ready?
Sure.
I state your name.
I, John Myron Simons,
Do solemnly swear
solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
and the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
and that I will faithfully
that I will faithfully
and impartially discharge my duties
discharge my duties
as President
as President
of the Board of Education
of the Board of Education
of Princeton City School District,
of Princeton City School District,
Hamilton, County, Ohio,
Hamilton County, Ohio,
to the best of my ability
to the best of my ability
and in accordance with the laws
and in accordance with the laws
now in effect
now in effect
and hereafter to be enacted
and hereafter to be enacted
during my continuance in said office
during my continuance in said office
and until my successor
until my successor
is chosen and qualified.
is chosen and qualified.
Next is nomination and election for vice president. Well, I will nominate Jody Kessler.
Second.
Anybody else? Mrs. Petter?
Mrs. Cleveland?
Yes.
Mrs. Moore?
I abstain.
Mrs. Kessler?
Yes.
Mrs. Wyder?
Yes.
Mr. Simons?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes. Next, we need the oath of office for the vice president.
I state your name.
I, Jody Kessler,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support
that I will support
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
and the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
and that I will faithfully
and that I will faithfully
and impartially discharge
and impartially discharge
my duties as Vice President
my duties as Vice President
of the Board of Education
of the Board of Education
of the Princeton City School District,
of the Princeton City School District,
Hamilton County, Ohio,
Hamilton County, Ohio,
to the best of my ability
to the best of my ability
and in accordance with the laws
and in accordance with the laws
now in effect
now in effect
and hereafter to be enacted
and hereafter to be enacted
during my continuance
during my continuance
in said office
in said office
and until my successor
and until my successor
is chosen and qualified.
is chosen and qualified.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is the approval of set time, dates, and locations of Board of Education meetings for 2024. Any discussion? If not, then Mrs. Petter.
The meeting times were sent out on email. Did everybody receive those?
I haven't had a chance to look at anything.
You haven't had a chance to look at it yet? You have copies?
I have that
He
copy.
has one.
Yeah, the one with the potential.
I think she's going to make a copy.
You want to look at that before you vote? Madam,
Do you have one?
Chairperson, I think you want to look at it before you vote.
Thank you.
Thank you. You want to share this one?
Sure. That's fine.
Gene, can you pass this? Gene, can you pass that?
Sure.
Do you have a copy?
Yeah.
I have a question about February 12th, the regular meeting. It appears that February 12th is the second Monday of the month, but then when you look at March 4th is the first Monday of the month. Is there some reason the pattern changes?
Does it have to do
Spring
with?
break,
Is it because of spring break? Is that right?
because if you pushed it to the 11th, the 25th would be spring break.
They
Is
have
that
it as March
No,
25th
March.
for spring break.
March 11th.
Well,
Yes.
Spring break
If
is the
if we had it on the 11th,
That's not in spring break.
no,
Spring break's
25th would be, it's 2 weeks after that one.
so if the meetings are on the second Mondays of the month, February 12th makes sense, but March 4th does not. But you're saying that's because of spring break?
No, I can,
That's what it looks like based on what's here, because if we had it on the 11th, 2 weeks from then would be the 25th.
yeah, that's, I think we,
We are meeting on the 11th, so,
No, 2 weeks from then would be the 25th, that's why.
no, I mean, we are meeting on the 11th. It's on
That's a
here.
special work session.
So that's a work session. So the 18th is the other date.
I know why, I remember.
Yeah.
I wrote it down. So the 4th, we moved it, the 11th, the 18th was, I'm gonna be going out of town.
Okay,
So we moved it, did the first two that month, and then the 25th was spring break.
okay.
So that's why those were moved to the.
So the 18th was the problem.
Which two
Okay,
were moved?
that's fine.
March 4th?
To the 4th.
And the 25th.
Which month?
March.
Yeah,
March.
I
March
realized
4th
the
was moved?
25th, but-
I know
Okay.
what you're asking.
We have another
So we're gonna
weekend
be
in
on
there.
March 4th and March 11th, they're back to back.
That's what it
Because
looked
I'm gonna
like.
be the 18th, I'm gonna be out of
Okay.
town at a conference, and then the 25th spring break. That's
Okay.
what it was.
Okay. Well, do we really want to meet that consecutively, March 4th and then again March 11th?
Well, for me, I would love to be here, so I would like to have it before from the 11th. Because the 25th, spring break, I know people probably
Yeah.
want to do things. The 18th, I'll be leaving, I leave that morning, I'll be leaving that morning, or maybe on the 17th, actually, I have to set those.
I understand, but I was
That's why.
wondering.
That's the only reason why.
Yeah, but I was wondering from a board perspective.
Yeah, I don't know.
Do you want to meet two days, let's say, that close together?
I can do it.
Okay.
And we're doing it again in May, just so everybody's aware.
Yeah.
May 13th and May 20th are the weeks following each other.
That's Memorial Day.
I just want to make sure everybody's aware.
Yep.
Any other questions or concerns?
Mm-mm. Not for me.
So do we need to make a motion? Is that where we are? Okay, I move that the Board of Education meetings for calendar year 2024 be approved as presented.
Second.
Thank you. Mrs. Petter?
Mrs. Moore?
Yes.
Mrs. Kessler?
Yes.
Mrs. Wyder?
Yes.
Mr. Simons?
Yes.
Mrs. Cleveland?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes. Next is to appoint Ohio School Board Association Student Achievement Liaison 2024.
Who's interested in that position? Who did it last year?
I think Jody's.
I am this past year. I really enjoy that. If
Okay.
no one else has a passion for it, I really enjoy being on that.
Who wants to be the alternate?
Well, I can be the alternate.
Okay.
Because I don't work.
I move that Jody Kessler be appointed as Princeton's Student Achievement Liaison to the Ohio School Boards Association and serve until the 2024 organizational meeting with Susan Wyder as alternate.
Second.
Mrs. Petter?
Mrs. Kessler?
Yes.
Mrs. Wyder?
Yes.
Mr. Simons?
Yes.
Mrs. Cleveland?
Yes.
Mrs. Moore?
Yes.
That motion passes. Next is to appoint Ohio School Boards Association Legislative Liaison for 2024.
If no one else is interested, I'll do it. If someone else is interested,
I am.
I'll sit it out.
What did you say, Mary?
I am. I'm interested.
You want to be the one or the alternate?
The one.
Okay, she's the one. I'll be the alternate.
I move that Mary Cleveland be the primary and Gina Ruffin-Moore be the secondary for the Ohio School Boards Association Legislative Liaison for 2024.
Any other comments?
Well, we need a second.
I'll second. Mrs. Petter?
Mrs. Wyder?
Yes.
Mr. Simons?
Yes.
Mrs. Cleveland?
Yes.
Mrs. Moore?
Yes.
Mrs. Kessler?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes. Next is to appoint Ohio School Board Association Legislative Liaison.
We just did that one.
Oh, I'm sorry. I needed to check it off.
Yep.
Next is the appointment of the Tax Abatement Liaison for 2024. Anybody interested?
I'm interested.
Anybody else?
Anybody else want to be second? I'll be second,
Okay. Gina and John. Mrs. Petter?
Got it.
Yeah, I'll second. I was writing it down.
Mr. Simons?
Yes.
Mrs. Cleveland?
Yes.
Mrs. Moore?
Yes.
Mrs. Kessler?
Yes.
Mrs. Wyder?
Yes. Motion passes. Which two? Okay. Up Next is approval of the board service fund, approval of the board service fund budget for 2024.
I move to approve setting aside the sum of, Madam Treasurer,
20,000.
20,000. That's a good number. for the 2024 Board Service Fund.
Second?
It has been moved and seconded. Mrs. Cutter?
Mrs. Cleveland?
Yes.
Mrs. Moore?
Yes.
Mrs. Kessler?
Yes.
Mrs. Wyder?
Yes.
Mr. Simons?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes. Next is approval of the 2024 organizational consent agenda.
I move to approve the 2024 organizational consent as presented.
Second?
It has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? If not, Mrs. Cutter?
Mrs. Moore?
Yes.
Mrs. Kessler?
Yes.
Mrs. Wyder?
Yes.
Mr. Simons?
Yes.
Mrs. Cleveland?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes. Next is approval of resolution approving standing, oh. We have to-
We're done.
No, we adjourned.
we don't have-
That's all we adjourned.
Next is to adjourn the organizational meeting.
I second that.
Anybody else? Mrs. Petter?
Mrs. Kessler?
Yes.
Mrs. Wyder?
Yes.
Mr. Simons?
Yes.
Mrs. Cleveland?
Yes.
Mrs. Moore?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes. Next is regular meeting opening items.
This
Do you
is when
wanna-
we
What
switch.
time?
Do you want to do some
Yeah, this is when we
musical
switch.
chairs?
I'm gonna,
Yeah.
So take a minute. Did you get that, Chris?
Yep.
We got it.
Sounds like fun.
Hey, Chris.
Okay.
Well, some seats are gonna have to be
We're switching.
switched.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, we can just do this tonight.
Yeah.
well, that's true.
regular meeting will come to order. This meeting is a meeting of the Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business and is not to be considered a public community meeting. There's a time for public participation during the regular meeting. Mrs. Petter?
Mrs. Wyder?
Here.
Mr. Simons?
Present?
Mrs. Cleveland?
Yes.
Mrs.
are here.
Moore?
Here.
Mrs. Kessler?
Here.
Okay, Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The next item is approval revision of the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? Mrs. Petter?
Mr. Simons?
Yes.
Mrs. Cleveland?
Yes.
Mrs. Moore?
Yes.
Mrs. Kessler?
Yes.
Mrs. Wyder?
Yes.
Motion passes. Our next item is recognition of visitors. Did anyone sign in? No? Okay. Next item, consent agenda and approval of the consent agenda.
I move to approve the 2024 organizational consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Well,
Is that what
this
it
is the
said?
regular meeting?
Oh, I read the wrong.
Yes. So we'll table that one.
Table it.
Need a,
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
any discussion?
I do have a question. Can you remind us what Dates is? Item F?
F.
What is that?
It's an online Spanish curriculum that we use.
Okay, thank you.
Realidades.
Huh?
Realidades.
Realidades.
Mrs. Petter?
Now it makes sense.
I mean,
Mrs.
that's-
Cleveland?
Yeah. Yes.
Mrs. Moore?
Yes.
Mrs. Kessler?
Yes.
Mrs. Wyder?
Yes.
Mr. Simons?
Yes. Motion passes. The next section is district business, approval of the 2024 tax budget.
I move to approve the 2024 tax budget as presented.
Second.
Properly moved and second. Any discussion? Having none, Mrs. Petter?
Mrs. Moore?
Yes.
Mrs. Kessler?
Yes.
Mrs. Wyder?
Yes.
Mr. Simons?
Yes.
Mrs. Cleveland?
Yes.
Motion passes. Approval of a resolution for the advance payment of taxes.
I move to approve the advance payment resolution for advance payment of taxes to be adopted effective for year January 2024 through December 2024.
Second.
Properly moved and second. Any discussion? Mrs. Petter?
Mrs. Kessler?
Yes.
Mrs. Wyder?
Yes.
Mr. Simons?
Yes.
Mrs. Cleveland?
Yes.
Mrs. Moore?
Yes.
Motion passes. Approval of the overnight field trip, Princeton High School speech and debate team tournaments.
I move to approve the overnight field trip, Princeton High School speech and debate team tournaments.
Second.
Properly moved and second. Any discussion? Mrs. Petter?
Mrs. Wyder?
Yes.
Mr. Simons?
Yes.
Mrs. Cleveland?
Yes.
Mrs. Moore?
Yes.
Mrs. Kessler?
Yes.
Motion has been passed. The next item is approval of agreement with Western Governors University for field and clinical experiences.
I move to approve the agreement with Western Governors University for field and clinical experiences as presented.
Second.
Properly moved and second. Any discussion? Without, Mrs. Petter?
Mr. Simons?
Yes.
Mrs. Cleveland?
Yes.
Mrs. Moore?
Yes.
Mrs. Kessler?
Yes.
Mrs. Wyder?
Yes.
Properly moved, second, and passed. Motion passes. Next item, approval of resolution authorizing requests for proposals, otherwise known as RFP, for transportation services.
I move to approve the resolution authorizing requests for proposals, RFPs, for transportation services.
Second.
Any discussion? Just want to make sure everybody has a copy of the resolution in their packet, or can
Yes, yeah.
gain access, or have read it.
I saw it.
Okay.
I just hope we seek women-owned businesses and SBEs and consider them in our quest for RFPs under this category of transportation services.
Anyone else? Mrs. Petter?
Mrs. Cleveland?
Yes.
Mrs. Moore?
Yes.
Mrs. Kessler?
Yes.
Mrs. Wyder?
Yes.
Mr. Simons?
Yes. The next item I have is discussion. And that discussion is concerning the first reading of the 2024-2025 Polaris Curriculum Guide. Mr. Card?
Yeah, as we look through that, team, Ms. Stiles, Wes Wright, and some of the folks in the buildings did a good job of going through that. There are some things we're going to look at. I had some questions sent to me, so we'll get those answered. We're about ready for those. Just about some different things they saw in there, and we'll get that, and we'll have that ready for the second reading.
Anybody else have any questions?
Were the questions from the public, or
No,
were they internal questions?
Board members.
And so you'll copy the answers to all of us?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
No further discussion? Okay, the next is the academic update. Mr. Card?
Yep, Ms. Stiles is on her way. And everybody should have a copy at their desk.
Oh,
Does everybody
yes.
have one?
Yes.
I think I gave everybody.
Yeah.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year.
I'm just going to review some of our Polaris course offerings, specifically those that relate to our AP, IB, and CCP courses. On the first slide, we just have a comprehensive list of all of the courses that we have offered for AP and IB. And then just with noting that courses are offered based on schedule availability and student requests, and specifically for some of our IB courses, we do layer them with the HL, the standard level, and the SL standard level and HL higher level. Sometimes we layer those courses and offer them during the same bell to make sure that we are meeting the students' needs, but also making sure that we're providing as many availability options as possible. The next piece I reviewed this past spring, but wanted to take some time to review it again and answer any questions that may come up. We do have opportunities for our students. Three of our newest opportunities are our associate's degree, the Ohio Transfer 36, used to be referred to as the Ohio Transfer Model, and then the Pathway Program. The associate's degree currently requires students to complete 62 credit hours. It's an Associates of the Arts, and students for the programming that we have set up right now would have to go off-site either to Cincinnati State, and then we're also exploring the possibility of partnering with Miami Hamilton. It would be a 2-year program, the students' junior and senior year. But that is an opportunity that we do provide students. Largely, the students would provide their own transportation, but then we could also look into providing financial aid if that student required that. So that is our 62-hour requirement for the associate's degree, and it's an Associate of Arts. We do also, and this is becoming increasingly popular, is look to have the Ohio Transfer 36. That is where students could obtain a certificate where they would complete 36 credit hours in the courses that are listed below. Some of those courses, like the mathematics course, for example, there's several different options. So there's not a specific course designated because there's some options that students can complete, or there's multiple options of courses that students can take to satisfy that requirement. It is important to note that with the Ohio Transfer 36, 6 of the 12 classes must be CCP, but the other remaining classes can be a combination of AP or IB, as long as those students would obtain the passing scores, a passing score of a 3 for the AP exam or a passing score of a 4 for the IB exam. So of those courses, half of them would have to be CCP, but the other could be a combination, or all 12 could be CCP as well. Then there's also a reduced pathway program that is a 24-hour requirement, and the pathway options that Cincinnati State offers could go through business, education, engineering, health, humanities, and information technology, and then based on the pathway that the students would select, that would guide which courses they would want to take to complete those 24 credits. And those course requirements would vary based on the chosen pathway. Currently, the courses that we have that would work towards the associate's degree Ohio Transfer model, the Ohio Transfer 36 or the pathway program, these are the ones that we currently offer in-house. So for the associate's degree, by and large, like I said, students would want to go or need to go off-site to obtain that because that's 62 hours, and we don't currently have the 62 hours that we can offer in-house. But these are some of the courses that we do offer that if the students are working towards that, they would be able to be at Princeton High School completing those courses. And so you'll be able to see whether it's a CCP course, an IB course, or an AP course that is available to our students. We are currently in conversations with Sue Kowalski, who is with Cincinnati State, to see how we can expand upon that and see how we can offer additional courses. This might require additional layering of courses where a course could be offered for regular credit or offered for CCP credit, and both students could be within that bell and select whether or not they're wanting to earn that CCP credit or earn or not earn that CCP credit. So we are having conversation with there to see how close we can get to that Ohio Transfer 6. We really want, one of our goals is to try to get to that Transfer 36 because that's a great certificate for our students to have. And what's nice about the Transfer 36 is it applies not to all, but the reason those courses are selected is it applies to many of the different majors that are out there that our students are interested in.
I have a question, but I should hold it till the end, shouldn't I?
It's up to you.
Because you might answer it. I'll wait.
Okay. And then lastly, information that helps guide decision-making for our families. In order to obtain AP credit, it is a nationally known and recognized course. The course grade does not earn credit. The AP test will determine if college credit is awarded. And that test is a 3 at most schools, but is a 4 at some selective schools, and it's a max score of 5. For IB, similar, except for it's internationally known, it's a 4 for a passing at most schools, 5 at some selective schools, and a max score of 7. And then for CCP credit, the difference is that the course grade does earn the credit. There's not a standardized end-of-course exam that is similar to the AP or the IB. And the credits may transfer outside of Ohio, and then we always refer the students to go to the transferology.com to check. And then they also have the availability to speak with college course advisors. I know we're working to set up some of those in-person conversations with Sue Kowalski from Cincinnati State this spring. It was a new practice that she started last year, and we're going to bring her to Princeton High School this year so that students can set up one-on-one appointments with the CCP advisors because the colleges are the most knowledgeable in that area and can help guide the students the best on which courses are going to be most appropriate based on the major that they believe they want to participate in post-secondary. Some important dates. On November the 16th, we did hold an advanced studies meeting at the middle school, but it was open for both middle school and high school families that talked about our advanced studies programming with our AP, IB, and CCP, as well as the Ohio Transfer 36 and the associate's degree opportunities. January 16th, our AccuPlacer testing will begin. That is the current test that we have students take, that they must require a passing score to be eligible to take the AP, IB, or CCP course. February 1st is when we are going to hold our in-person College Credit Plus parent meeting. That is required by law as part of the CCP requirements that parents attend that meeting. Now, we know that parents are going to sometimes have conflicts, so the counselors do create a video of the PowerPoint and post it on the website after the meeting, so that for those parents who cannot attend in person, they can watch the video, complete a Google form at the end, so that we can count that as attending. And then February 6th, we are going to have Miami University, as I stated earlier. We are exploring a partnership with them, so they are going to come and meet with the students to discuss what their associate's degree would look like to attend their Hamilton campus. And then on February 20th, that's when course scheduling will begin. And from April 15th to May 5th, that is when we are looking to partner with Cincinnati State, where they will hold an orientation for all students so they can be fully aware of what CCP programming is. So it'll be an extension of what that parent meeting looks like. And the advisors will be there to answer questions. And then during that time, they usually schedule with schools for 2 days, and they schedule appointments so that students can meet with them and get that one-on-one personalized attention. So that will be new this year.
I have a question.
Yes.
You mentioned Cincinnati State a couple of times.
Yes.
And it's good college.
Mhm.
I was an adjunct there. It's a great program, but are students told the difference between a Research One university and a Cincinnati State? For example, if you go to UC, that's Research One. But if you go to Cincinnati State, that borderlines almost junior college? And like, will what they take at Cincinnati State be accepted if they go to Princeton University or Harvard or some other Research One university? Or do you tell them that up front? Look, this is from Cincinnati State, so it may not be accepted, even if you pass the AP test at Ohio State University. It won't be accepted because it was from Cincinnati State. Do you see what I'm saying?
So with our College Credit Plus courses, that's where the advisors will come into play to say how that college that they are looking to attend will accept that credit. So that varies based on any college that student is looking to apply to. So whether it's Ohio State, that's where they would want to connect with that advisor and say, this is the major that I'm looking to go into. What are the classes that make the most sense, that are going to be able to be applied for the major that I intend to participate in? So that varies based on the school. There are some schools that will accept all of the credits. There are some schools that will, if you are going into chemistry, they might accept a CCP chemistry course as an elective, but they want you to take their general chemistry course once you get to their college. So they might accept that as an elective, but they might accept your English 1 and English 2 as your English credits because all you need is 2 English courses and it doesn't have to be specific to your major. So that's where those meetings are going to become so important. So they can say, here are the courses that you're taking with Cincinnati State. Tell me which college you intend to apply to, and I will tell you how those credits will transfer so that you can make an informed decision on what's going to make the most sense. Is it going to be AP, is it going to be IB, or is it going to be CCP?
So even if they earn an associate degree while they're in high school from Cincinnati State, there's no guarantee that the University of Cincinnati will give any credit from a Cincinnati State 2-year associate degree.
By and large, a lot of those courses from Cincinnati State to UC will transfer, but it depends on the major that they go into.
Yeah, so the parents and the students will know that up front.
Yes.
That there are different levels of university.
So that's part of the parent meeting
Okay.
that's held, yes,
Thank
to
you.
help that understand. But that's where those counseling sessions, I can't stress it enough, with the college advisors are so critical because it's very unique based on the student, the major they intend to apply to, and the school they want to apply to. So
Yeah.
what might be a yes for Ohio State might be a no for OU, or what might be
Right.
yes if you're a math major might be a no if you're a science major.
Yeah, and do you all make sure that, or you can't do that? I was thinking, like if I wanted a degree in engineering and I got an associate from Cincinnati State, but I want to go to the University of Kentucky. But the engineering program at the University of Kentucky is not accredited. So that's something you also make sure the parent and the student look into, because why would you want a degree from a college that was not accredited in the first place?
Right, so when you look into going into an associate's degree, and it's an associate's of arts, so to your point, if you're looking to go into engineering as your major,
Yeah.
obtaining an associate's of arts, you're running the risk of taking college credits that might not transfer into your
Right.
major. So you could take 6 credits, 20 credits that helped you get your associates, but when you look to transfer that to an
They're not
engineering
taking
degree,
it.
might not transfer. So that's why, if you want to get the associate's degree, you want to think long and hard about what is your pathway and what is your end goal to see, is the associate's degree the most appropriate fit for the student?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
First, what is the cost to the student?
There is not a cost to the student to take the course. The
Okay.
only time the student can obtain a cost is if they fail the course or withdraw after the deadline. And those costs only apply to those students who are identified as economically disadvantaged, and that's per the state guidelines. And that's also within our Polaris.
So it's free credits whether they transfer or not, right?
Correct.
The second question is, why are we limiting it to only juniors and seniors?
It's not limited to juniors and seniors, and I remember we discussed this last year. It is.
No, but it was your comment.
Juniors and seniors get priority
Okay.
because, yeah, they get priority because they have limited time left in high school. But if there is course availability, if the course is not filled by our juniors and seniors, and there's freshmen, sophomores, 8th, 7th, or 6th graders interested, then yes, we will look to see if we can make that a match.
Okay, I have a question about the transportation.
Yes.
You've mentioned that the student has to provide their own transportation. Do we find that difficult for some students? And if so, do we have a Plan B or something else in place to assist?
What we have found so far is that, in my time here, it's not the transportation itself that has been the issue. It is the students not having the desire to leave campus for a full day because of all the wonderful opportunities we have here. A lot of the students that are interested in College Credit Plus also love our art program, also love our music program, also maybe want to mix it with AP and IB. So it's the off-campus piece, and then the students themselves feel like they're not connected to the school. So that's where the disconnect comes in. Now, the colleges are working on that. In my most recent conversation with Miami, you know, they really work to get the courses scheduled between 9 and 1. Because they do realize that they are potentially losing students because of after-school activities or after-school jobs, and things of that nature. So the colleges are really working to come on board and truly partner with the high schools to expand as many opportunities as possible, whether it be in-house or working to, does the bus line go from Princeton to Miami? What we found in our recent conversation is it makes a stop at Tri-County on the way to Miami-Hamilton. We're like, well, if it's close enough, could they make a stop to Princeton since it's so close to Tri-County? And they said, well, that's something that we're willing to look into. So the colleges really are looking to see how accessible it can be made for students. So it's not completely there yet, but they're willing to have those kinds of conversations. And that's why that meeting with Miami is going to be so important, because if we have the interest, then we want to start having those transportation conversations, because we don't want that to be a reason that a student opts out. We want to say, okay, if transportation is going to be the barrier, how can we work with Miami, and how can we work with our transportation department to do everything we can possible to get the student what they are trying to accomplish.
Okay, and then on that same vein, with the cost of gas, do we offer any stipends for those students who do drive?
That is not something that I am aware that we have offered in the past, but that's
Okay.
also not a question that's been asked of me, so I don't know 100%. I can see if we've offered that in the past and then
Yeah.
and let you know.
I'm just
but that's
curious.
not
I
anything I'm
mean, you
aware
said
of.
we offer the financial aid, and I was wondering, does it extend all the way through to all of their cost to participating?
Yeah, I would have to ask to
Okay.
see if we've given
Thank
gas
you.
cards or anything like that. From my understanding, the majority of students who have gone off campus have had that transportation and have just taken advantage of it and haven't asked for anything in return or expressed the need for anything in return. But I can dig a little bit deeper and say, you know, how far could we go, or how far have we gone for those students who have gone off-site?
Okay, I'd be interested in knowing that. And then last, you talked about the day. What does that look like currently? I heard you say that they're working on Miami, but what does the day look like for our students who are currently participating?
We do not currently have any students that are
Okay.
that are exploring the associate's degree for that reason. They really, and this is, I mean, it's a good thing because we offer so many great things
Right, I
here
know,
that,
yeah.
you know, but it is one of the things that makes exploring that associate's degree a little bit more challenging because they just have such strong ties here. So at this time, we do not have anyone exploring the option.
So if
of
they were to
associate's degree.
participate in Cincinnati State, what would the day look like? Would it be an 8 to 3?
Theirs is not as structured. Theirs is more, let's sit down with a student and find a schedule that works the best for them.
Okay, that's what I was wondering.
Miami is really, the regional campuses are really working to do their early college admissions program, their ECA. And so they are working to build a program and partner with districts specifically for that, whereas Cincinnati State leaves it open more to the individual
So it's really
student.
based on classes, based on whatever they want to take. So they go and come back, and they continue to take classes, would continue to take classes here too?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have two questions.
Yes.
Okay, on the chart, on both of them, under Associates and Ohio Transfer, it lists 2 OT 36 courses or 2 OTM courses. I'm not sure what those are.
Oh, I'm sorry, that's a typo on the second one. I should have transferred that to OT 36. So OT is 2 Ohio Transfer 36 courses. So there's a list of courses, kind of like electives that would fit into what would qualify for those. So those are more of your elective classes, and they say, again, that's where the conversation comes in of what do you think you want to major in, and then we'll help you select what the most appropriate courses are for that. But the middle column should say OT 36, part of that Ohio Transfer 36.
So the so they would, where would they find that? That list would just be like on Cincinnati State's catalog or something?
There is a list of when the students are, if they identify that they want to participate in this, they will sit down with their advisor and schedule that out.
Okay.
And in partnership with our high school counselors.
And those are different than electives?
It depends on the course that they select.
Okay.
So some of the, one of the courses that we are exploring right now would be the art course. So we have AP and IB photography. We're looking at a possibility to have CCP photography be a course that is layered in with those. We're looking at what the curriculum and syllabus is for the CCP photography to see how closely aligned is it with AP and IB, because where we have found is that with CCP, in AP, there's not always that alignment with the standards, but we think with photography there might be. So then what we could possibly do is offer that as a layered course where if a student enters into that photography course, they could select, am I taking this for AP, IB, or CCP? If they select CCP, that could be one of the 2 elective courses. So that's where it just, it depends on which courses they are interested in taking.
Okay. And then on the chart, I think it's kind of confusing to me because it'll say like 1 oral communication course. Then I go back to the list of CCP classes. I'm like, is this an oral communication course? Like, is there a way to make the associate's degree chart just say the actual courses that we have? Like, here's the CCP English Comp 1, CCP English
So are
Comp
you
2.
saying for this one, like you would want, but for like the math course, there's
Yeah.
multiple options for that. So you would want us to list every possible option that they could
Well, not
take.
the AP and IB ones, just the.
But even the CCP one. So some of them are very specific, like oral communication, we
That's
only
just
have
one.
one in-house.
And
Now,
same
but they
with
could
math.
take one online with Cincinnati State,
Oh, I was just thinking that like the ones that you list here, like in math.
which ones are
CCP math.
associated specifically with Princeton. We
CCP.
could
I don't know, I just think it would be
look at kind of merging
cleaner.
those two.
Because obviously they can take any math class at Cincinnati State for that.
Correct.
But-
Yeah, I mean, there are several that they can select from.
There's so many.
Yeah, but I like to keep it like really easy for them to understand. Hey,
Mm-hmm.
here's how you can get this Ohio Transfer 36 we offer all 10 of these classes here in-house. Here they are. You can.
Yes,
I-
we
like kinda
could
combine
look
those.
at the ones and say, if you're interested in Ohio Transfer 36, here are your list of things that you could select from.
I think that would help kids and parents.
And you're asking only for the ones that we offer in-house, though, even though there would be like,
I'm
if a
suggesting
student
that.
wants to take CCP stats online at Cincinnati State, they would have to,
Do you list CCP stats online, like in the Polaris? I don't think.
we don't.
Right,
We
so
don't.
I
So we
guess-
would only want to focus on the ones that you're,
Or maybe
that we
have this
offer
chart,
here.
but then maybe have a sample. If you're looking to do this on Princeton campus, here's how you can do it.
Okay, let me look at how I can create that
just think
table
about that.
and then see if the table that I create matches what your request is, and if not, I can go back and revise it. But I think I'm capturing what you're saying to make sure that I just put that below. Yes, I think I can make that happen.
And it's somewhat of a moving target anyway, because there are changes. Even if you put it the way it's suggested, it could change the next month. But hey, that's okay, just keep redoing it.
Yes, it could, and I think what's important to know and that I would probably want to include in there is these are the courses that students can take, but they're not
there's so
limited to
many more.
taking.
Yeah.
Yes,
Right.
because you have students who, some might be interested in our college algebra course, but for some that might be a conflict with another course that they're taking,
Right.
which we run into sometimes. So then, that's when we then present, okay, well, here's some of the off-site
Yeah.
options that you could maybe take online.
Yeah.
But those options are so long to include all those, it
It's
could
too
be a little
many.
overwhelming and
Right.
confusing. But,
Yeah.
yeah, so I would want to make sure that we would note that in
Yeah.
there, that these are the ones offered specifically at Princeton, but this is not what you're limited to if you're interested in CCP courses.
Right.
How many courses are offered at Princeton? I mean, round.
So that's,
ballpark.
I didn't count them up, but that's this slide.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So that looks like.
The one that
quite a
says
few.
available Princeton high school courses,
Uh-huh.
I didn't count them up, but those are all
That's
the
good.
ones. I can count them up. for
No,
you.
that's all right. And I'm curious too, since the inception of College Credit Plus, and I guess it's been around at least, I know it's been around most of the time I've been on the board. Is that like, I've been on the board 8 years, but has it been around longer than 8 years?
It has morphed from a few different things. It used to be called dual credit.
Uh-huh.
Back when I was in high school, it was post-secondary. So it's kind of evolved over the years.
Okay.
And College Credit Plus is the most recent rendition of it, and that's where that's the things that we're seeing now of how many courses can we offer on campus, because students are interested in obtaining college credit while they're in high school, but many are not interested in going off-site for that. So
Yeah.
that's where, that is what has evolved into, is to College Credit Plus. But it's, the concept of earning college credit while in high school has been around at least since the 90s when I was in
Yeah.
high school, because friends of
Yeah.
mine would take it.
But do you have any idea how many of our students actually earned an associate degree before they got out of high school here?
As far as I'm aware, for Princeton, we do not have any students. The associate's degree specifically is a very new thing within the past couple of years.
Okay. Yeah. I think I might know of one who came very close to it. I'll have to check with her mom again, but,
We did have 2 students, not
Yeah.
with the class of 2023, but I believe it was the class of 2022 who did get the Ohio Transfer 36
Exactly.
certificate.
yeah. And another one went to a HBCU. So she entered the HBCU as a junior.
Oh,
Thanks to
yes.
Princeton.
Yes, that is quite possible, associate's degree or not. It is very possible to enter as a sophomore or higher, depending on the number of either College Credit Plus classes that you take or AP or IB assessments that you obtain a passing score on.
And is it a selling point for parents if we were to emphasize, you're gonna save money on sending your kid to college if you think now and get them enrolled in College Credit Plus now? I mean, do we promote it that way from the money? I
Absolutely.
know money is not a driver
It's-
for everybody, but I'm just saying.
It's definitely an important piece of information that we do make sure to share with the parents,
Okay.
because that's definitely a barrier that some of our families experience, is the financial cost.
And I would say in my experience, a lot of times the parents push and the kids push back. And I can't speak for Princeton per se yet, but it's in our conversations, because the kids want to be here. So it does keep some kids, as she said, from doing that, and it's been a lot of my experience. So I've had conversations in my office when I was a building administrator with parents quite a bit about, here's the good, here's the bad. You know, what would you want to do? Well, I wanted to be at my high school and play ball. That's what I wanted to do. But everybody's not me, so I can't give you, they'd always ask those things. So, but I have seen kids come out with associates and finish college in 2 years and 2.5 years, and then some kids just want that high school experience, that traditional high school experience. So it's kind of unique on the kid and the family.
It depends, yeah. Because you could just take 1 or 2 classes and not miss out on cheerleading and everything else. Thank you.
It's a big decision.
Yeah.
Are all of our staff, meaning teachers, counselors, coaches, are they familiar with CCP?
Yes. To the same level, not all to the same level. You know, if I'm a CCP history teacher, I have a lot more knowledge.
Yes.
You know, as opposed to our high school counselors, as opposed to our middle school counselors. But every teacher is aware that CCP exists, and it's a way for students to earn college credit while in high school.
So our counselors are aware of the pathway?
Very much aware. They are the ones that spoke to it during the advanced studies meeting.
And part of the reason why I'm asking is we've had some concerns about eligibility for, I think it was cross-country. They were taking CCP classes, didn't know about the inter-report grades, which CCP does not do. And so people that checked that, whether the counselor or the ADs, they wouldn't let the person participate because they were lacking in credit hours or whatever, allegedly. But they were straightened out. So I just think there's an information gap.
So that's a very good point. That was a question that was raised. And so there is a form that students need to complete, and we are working on obtaining verbiage from our athletic department to include in the Polaris to make sure that that information is more clear. And we can even, since our Polaris is now online, we can include the verbiage as well as link the form so that both of them are right next to each other to help with those situations and make sure that it doesn't occur.
So academic update, I think you're going to refer to this next question here, so might as well keep Libby there.
Okay.
And that is, I keep hearing rumblings, so this is secondhand,
Okay.
that there's a conflict, scheduling conflict sometimes between the music department and APIB as far as when things are available. Have you heard any of that, Mr. Cook?
Yeah, that's 100%, and it's every building I've ever been to, we have that at high school. Depends on, to me, and you can speak to this too, depends on when they're offered. So music may have to be at a certain time, certain classes have to be at a certain time. I dealt with that for 8 years as a principal, and we tried to work it out the best we could, but there's never a time to where if it's a singleton class, so there's only one class, a couple different singletons, and they want band or choir too, and it became an issue. So I know we had that conversation this year, beginning of the year, and there were some little adjustments made to try to help some folks. But I'm gonna be honest, to me, that's always gonna be an issue. I've been in 3, 4 buildings, and it's always been to try to alleviate it the best we can. When I first became a building administrator as an assistant, they kind of just did it and said, here, that's it. As I became the principal, we tried to make adjustments as I got in there, and we were able to, but we never made everybody happy, because there's always this is all for fourth bell. Who can teach the classes sometimes causes an issue. So that's not uncommon. It's just that you have to try to alleviate as much of the conflict as you can.
Could I offer a suggestion on that? Just having 4 kids going through Princeton. I know kids who are very involved in music and want to take 2 bells of music. Junior year cannot fit that full IB diploma schedule, and they generally have to drop an elective to take theory of knowledge. I always, as a mom, wondered if we could offer that theory of knowledge in the summer for those kids that wanted to do the full IB diploma, but also were very involved in the music department or the arts or any of those. So just something to think about, if there's a way to offer an IB class in the summer as an option. I'm just throwing it out there. I think Mitchell, my junior, would have done that.
And I don't have that answer. We can have
Yeah.
that conversation with the team. I think, I don't want this to sound bad, but sometimes you have to make a decision
Yeah.
on what path you want to take.
Yeah.
You can't have it all. While we want to give them as much as we can, it's hard during the year, but I don't know, stuff in the summer, I'm not sure, so, we'd have to we can talk about that.
That would definitely have to be a conversation, because we want to make sure that the student would be successful.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of time required to that. It would likely be something that I would anticipate would take the entire summer. I can't swear to it, but
Yeah,
I think that
I
would
know.
be a hard ask. But it's something that we can certainly look into and see,
Yeah.
does IB even allow something like that?
Right,
Is
yeah,
that
it's
an
about
available
one
option
thing, right.
anywhere? And if so, how did that district make it work?
Good. Any other comments?
Thank you, Ms.
Thank you.
Stiles.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next are the reports, treasurer's report.
I just have one thing. The audit is nearing completion. Everything on our end is complete. It's been submitted to the state. They're now reviewing it. And typically that doesn't come back at all, but we'll know if they agree with the job the independent auditors did. So that's all done. We're happy about that. And I'll send you guys, when we get through this next phase, I'll send you the response. So everything's gone well.
Good.
That's all I have.
Thank you. The next piece is the superintendent's report.
Yes, sir, thank you. I just have a few things, be quick. First thing I want to talk about is the state of the schools coming up on the 25th of January, from 6 to 8:30. Something we've added this year, as I've talked about since I've been here from day one, is celebrating our kids and bragging on our kids. So we're going to put something together this year. It's called a Student Achievement Fair. Every building will have something I did in another district as well. And it gets people out to see what all the kids are doing. Every building will have a table or two showing the things that they're doing in their school. That might be something that's different from other places. This is the first year, so I'm not sure what it's going to look like, but I think it's a good idea for a couple of reasons. First of all, we're about the kids, and we're supposed to be about the kids. We need to show what they're doing. And they'll have a teacher or staff, whoever it is, in every building. I gave them, working with the CIA team, Ms. Lador and everybody else, I gave them some ideas of things they could do, but I didn't want to cage them in. I want them to do what they feel like is going on great in their school. Whether they needed technology, we told them to get that. So that's something we're going to do. I just think we want to show off things our kids are doing. I think we do a pretty good job with social media and getting things out that way. But this gives, and I think it's good for our kids to have adults coming through and them explaining to that. It's a great skill to have, to be able to talk to adults in person. As you know, me included, do a lot of this. But I grew up in a generation where I could talk as well. A lot of our kids struggle with that, including my own sometimes, so I want to make sure that they have that experience. And I think the administrators and the teachers chose the kids and what group would be doing it. And then as we move into the next year, we'll get started on it a little earlier, and probably we'll see how it goes this year, and we'll tighten up what we need to tighten up. There's always things you can improve. So I think that is something I'm excited about. I think that it will be good for our students, and I think it'll be good for our community that comes to be able to see that. Then that's why I'll say a few words, and Ms. Pedro will say a few words. And, you've heard me say numerous times, less me and more about the kids. They see me everywhere. I'm all over social media. I'm everywhere. I want to make sure our kids get that shine as well, and our staff, our teachers get that shine as well, because they're the ones in there doing that work. And I've always been that way, and that's the way I want to continue to be. I always talk about the arts. So we had, before our last meeting in December, I talked a lot about all the concerts and everything. They were fabulous. I saw almost all of them. There's a couple I didn't make it to. But there is a senior solo recital on the 18th at 7 at Viking Village or at Matthews. It would be something that would be awesome. Come out and support the kids. They've worked very hard. And then also, as we continue in the fall sports season, we talked about that. bowling, wrestling, basketball, girls cheer, chess, swimming. I think I got them all. You know, get out and support the kids. I see a lot of people out there. Our kids love to see our teachers. They love to see our community there. As I continue to get to know more and more kids, and now they, Mr. Carr, they know who I am. They come up to me. We get to talk. And what I love about being in education, I get to hear those stories about, man, we're happy you're here. I saw my teacher here, or whatever the case may be. So if you can get out and support the kids, you know, I know you can't be there all the time, but if you can every once in a while at our middle school level and our high school level, I think it'd be great. So that's really all I had right now.
Could you possibly touch on the fact, the great, wonderful fact, that the Princeton High School girls basketball team kicked Notre Dame's behind? I mean, I was at the game.
Yeah,
And every radio station in town was talking about how badly Princeton was going to lose. So I just want to say live on living color on videotape that I was so happy
What
when
I will
our
say
girls
about that,
basketball team won.
if those radio places are saying that, they don't know much about basketball, first of all.
You're right.
And I'm a football guy, but I know a little bit about basketball too. I think our girls, you know, our girls played hard, and it was a very competitive game, a great crowd. We had a lot of people there. The cheerleaders are always there getting everything hyped up, so it was a great experience that night. I'm happy I was able to make that one. But our girls, they handled their business, and, you know, we just got to keep going because we have lofty goals.
Yeah.
Not just our girls, but
Oh,
talk
yeah.
about our girls.
Yes, yes. And shout out to wrestling and all the other winter sports as well.
Yes. I think there might be a swimming tomorrow.
Yeah, I think swimming has
Swimming
something.
tomorrow night, I think. I'll try to stop in there.
The invitationals this weekend?
I think it is.
Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think
Invitation
swimming
speaker
has
swimming
an
tomorrow
invitation.
night, and it's Oak Hills tomorrow, I think. I can't remember. I looked on my calendar.
Friday night.
I always gotta look every day and let my wife know where I'm gonna be. So, all right, that's all I had.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we will now enter into executive session to discuss under sections 121.22G1 to consider the employment and compensation of a public employee of the Ohio Revised Code.
Oh, second. But before we get there, before you do it, I do have one thing I need to share. On my way here tonight, I get a call from OSBA saying that I had entered a contest when we were up there for Plinko, if you guys remember, if anybody did it, but I won
Yay.
on behalf of Princeton.
Wow.
And so they will be awarding a student a $500 scholarship. So I was very excited. Needless to say, they want to meet with you and I to go over the details on how they're going to get the money to our students. So again, I took a chance on Plinko.
Good check.
Great job.
That's good news. Thank you.
All right.
Mrs. Moore?
Yes.
Mrs. Kessler?
Yes.
Mrs. Wyder?
Yes.
Mr. Simons?
Yes.
Mrs. Cleveland?
Yes.